What's going on, guys? I'm your host from the East Coast, Gene the Man 94, bringing you guys a topic video today. Things that I want for the WWE in 2017. Now, 2016 was a semi-disappointing year in the world of the WWE. We had some really good moments and some really bad moments. Well, some of the good things, we had AJ Styles debut in the WWE, completely taking over the company and completely rising to even more stardom than he already had, on the indie scene and in TNA and New Japan and all of that. Just like I said, completely taking over the whole company, making a name for himself inside a WWE ring, which is something we never thought we would ever see. We had the New Day become the longest reigning tag team champions of all time. We had Cesaro continue to improve his moveset and his character, and even teamed up with Sheamus and became the WWE Tag Team Champions with Sheamus, making Sheamus even more important as well. Sheamus has definitely upped his game as well. I'll definitely give him credit for that. We had The Miz completely stepping his game up 1,000%, like elevating himself to heights we didn't even think The Miz was capable of getting to. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. We had the brand split. Shane McMahon returned after like an 8 to 9 year hiatus from the WWE. And we've had some pretty bad things as well. Just like bad booking decisions. Raw has been subpar for the greater part of 2016. We've had some good episodes, but for the most part, Raw hasn't been that enjoyable to watch. Smackdown wasn't really relevant until the brand split happened, but once it did, though, Smackdown became very important, and right now is a better show to watch to me than Monday Night Raw is. Although the women have made strides in the women's division, and we're damn proud of what they've done, they haven't really done a good job of making the ones on Raw feel more important, other than Charlotte and Sasha. And I'll get into the women's division in a little bit as well, but just WWE overall hasn't made Raw look good, and like I said, SmackDown wasn't really important until the brand split happened. But now that the brand split has happened, even SmackDown's women's division looks great. Even though, all of them aren't going for the title all at once anymore, since they did the brand split. They're off in their own separate rivalries, and you don't even realize that, oh, this person's not going for the title, because they're making them feel important. And even when, like Naomi comes back and it's rumored Mickie James is going to SmackDown, SmackDown's just going to get that much better. You're going to have so many more rivalries, so many more matchups you haven't seen before, and, it'll just improve the quality of the show going into 2017. So I have a couple topics I wanna talk about. Not too many, because I don't want to really be too critical of the product, because I do enjoy the WWE. It's just some things that kind of get on my nerves, and I just want to talk about them. So the first thing, let's just address the whole elephant in the room. Okay, Roman Reigns is like the most polarizing figure in the WWE today. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's starting to become John Cena in that aspect. That people either really like the guy or they're very critical of the guy. So let's talk about Roman for a minute. While I believe Roman has done a good job with what he was given in 2016, there's still some things that he can improve on to make himself better in 2017. The main thing I get is that, a heel is supposed to get heat during the match. But Roman is, or at least should be, a monster. Now, maybe he shouldn't be a heel per se, and because the heel's supposed to dominate the match for the most part, depending on who they're facing. But when it comes to a Roman Reigns, it doesn't look right if he's getting dominated by a smaller guy. This man has Samoan heritage. His family, all of them are jacked up. They're big guys, big bellies, big thighs, big legs, everything. Samoans, Rikishi, Umaga. Umaga was a beast. I think that was his uncle. Rosie was in the WWE. The Wild Samoans, like the Uso. The list just goes on and on and on. So for a smaller guy to come in and work him over, getting heat, which is a good thing, but at the same time, if you're making Roman the top guy, and you're gonna make him the guy that wins a ton of his matches, him selling for 95% of the match isn't going to be a good thing, because everybody's just going to know that, hey, he's just going to make his comeback and he's just going to win at the end. So it doesn't matter how much work that the heel gets in, during the match in the beginning. We all know that he's going to come back and win the match at the end. The John Cena effect, if you will. Now, I'm a fan of John Cena, and I feel like he shouldn't, be getting killed for the whole match as well. But if you got a guy like Roman Reigns, and you have a guy like John Cena, who looks like they can kick your ass if you run into them in an alleyway at nighttime and they're in a very bad mood, why are guys half their size kicking their ass for 95% of the match? I don't understand it. I understand the art of selling, but it gets to the point where it's not believable. Would you believe if Brock Lesnar was selling to Bo Dallas? I think not. These guys are very well built and they're strong, so making them feel that way, or at least look like they'll actually kill somebody like Brock Lesnar does, the crowd maybe will respect them a little bit more. John Cena is a former bodybuilder. He shouldn't be out here unless he's getting out wrestled by somebody, which I can understand it from that standpoint. But if you, like I said, if you got like a Bo Dallas out here just kicking Cena's ass, would you believe it? No. You wouldn't believe that. And while I do feel like Roman does put on good matches, I feel on the other end that the crowd does give him a rough time about it, even though I enjoy, Roman's style of match. But like I said, I feel like, the selling with him at least should be to a minimum. Because, like I said, if you're trying to build him to be the Samoan badass, he shouldn't be, looking like he's going to lose the match 95% of the time just to come back within the last 30 seconds and win. Make him destroy people. That's why people kind of like Brock Lesnar. He's the conqueror. Even though Goldberg, pretty much beat him in like 20 seconds. But for the most part, Brock was running through people. Why can't Roman Reigns run through people until he gets like a high profile match against somebody? Then it would make sense. But you got him on Raw getting his ass kicked by 39-year-old Chris Jericho. I don't know how old he is. He might even be in his 40s. Come on. If Roman's not dropping the title, and it's not like the main event of Raw, he should be in there killing Jericho. And, because Jericho doesn't mind putting anybody over. So why is Roman selling to him 95% of the match? It just doesn't make sense. And then I can understand from some standpoints why people can't get behind him. But some fans at the same time just want to hate Roman Reigns because everybody else is doing it. They don't actually formulate their own opinions. Like I said, it's some people, not a lot. I've heard, legit reasons why people don't like Reigns. They say, his attire needs a change. He needs to get away from the Shield music. And I get that. But then at the same time, they're the same people who pop for the Shield spots. So, I mean, like, you can't have your cake and eat it too sometimes. So, I don't know. Those are kind of small nitpicks, but I think, if they book Roman Reigns better in 2017, and if that's the guy they're going to go with, then actually go with him and invest into him, but make him even more better. This guy has star qualities. If you're going to turn him heel, freak it, turn him heel. Who cares? I've seen his heel work in NXT. It was great. Put the man in a suit and allow him to do his work. I'm sure he can, muster up something good. So, I don't know. That's just something about Roman Reigns. But, transitioning into, building stars, I believe, they could actually do a whole lot better job of doing that in 2017. I believe that, 2017 can be the year of a few guys breaking out and becoming main eventers. Rusev has been treated like shit for like the past few years now, even though he has improved on the mic and in the ring since coming up from NXT. The guy is a total package. Even though, he has that Russian accent, he can still articulate himself well enough that you get the point of what he's saying. It's not like you're struggling listening, trying to hear what he's saying. That's kind of what Nakamura is. He's getting better with his English, but, a guy like that is going to take him a while. But Rusev's transition hasn't been that bad. He can drop a promo and you'll understand, the point of where he's trying to go in the promo. He's a bigger guy, but he has the look of a champion and could be a great heel if WWE would invest more into him. Both of his United States Championship runs were great, but they just completely cut the cord on it. And even though I love John Cena's U.S. Championship run, now we took the title off of Rusev and gave it to Roman Reigns, who's only defending it against Chris Jericho. Why not give it to a Rusev for the time being until you're ready to elevate him to main event status? And it could make more sense if, you know, with the storyline he's doing with Big Cass and Enzo, maybe one of those guys could take the belt off of him. If you're going to drop the belt, it's got to mean something. Giving it to Roman Reigns for him to do nothing with it and just go after the Universal title anyway doesn't get anybody over. He's just holding on to the belt for no reason. It doesn't make sense. Unless he's just, you know, eliminated all the competition that you know, wanted to come after the United States Championship, and then, you know, then he wanted to go for the Universal title, that would make sense. But he just got the title, and all he's been defending it against is Chris Jericho. So, you know, I feel like Rusev could have held on to the title a lot longer, and it could have been used to enhance his storylines with other people. Somebody else that I'm seeing a lot of star potential in is Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is somebody who impressed me in 2016, even dating back to his days in NXT. The guy has a great look. Being a former football player, I think he used to be like a lineman or something. He's slimmed down. You know, he's very crafty in the ring. He moves fluently throughout the ring, and he's kind of quick for a guy his, you know, his height and his size. And he's a very underrated talent, very underrated in the aspect of his character, because he's a great talker, and you believe the words that come out of his mouth. Last night on Smackdown, he told John Cena he would knock his damn teeth down his throat. Nobody goes up to Cena and says it like that and sounds that convincing. If you go back and watch that clip, Baron Corbin looked like he was about to knock Cena's teeth down his throat. There's not many people that step up to John Cena and make it seem like they'll actually do something to him. They you know, more or less regress away from Cena. They won't, you know, actually do what they're saying. But he convinced the hell out of me. The way his voice sounded and the way he looked at Cena and the way he like tensed his muscles up, it was believable. We got a believable heel. The crowd absolutely hates this guy, and it's great. That's his character. He's the lone wolf. He don't give a damn if you cheer for him or boo for him. If you boo for him, he's just going to make you even more mad when he wins his matches. This is great. I love his character. Take the main event of SmackDown last week as well, the Wild Card Finals. How he said he wasn't going to be nervous and that the WWE Champion, AJ Styles, and Dolph Ziggler should be the ones who's worried about him. And then he proceeded to go out there and prove why. He dominated that match and proved that he can be a main event guy in the future. I don't think, you know, rushing him to the title would be the smartest idea, but just the fact that you have a guy like Baron Corbin who you can invest in 2017 and build him up and build him up and build him up, maybe, you know, towards the end of the year or, you know, the early part of next year, have the guy win the Royal Rumble. I wouldn't say do it this year. Don't pull the trigger that fast. Continue to build him. I like the building process they're going through with him right now. And hell, maybe, you know, he can feud with like a Dean Ambrose or something. If, you know, the Miz is going to go towards the WWE Championship, I feel like he deserves at least a shot at it. A one-on-one feud with somebody. But, you know, if we're going to have a Baron Corbin continue to be built, have him take the IC title off of Dean Ambrose in the future. Have them feud together. The Lunatic Fringe against the Lone Wolf. It's a different matchup. We haven't seen it. I'm sure they could book it perfectly on SmackDown. If it was Raw, I wouldn't have any hope for it. But, you know, you could give this guy a championship run. You know, he can dominate people, continue to dominate people, and then, you know, he'll get tired. Somebody will get elevated off of getting the title off of him, and then he'll go for the world title. Why not? At the end of the year, early next year, you know, maybe around the Rumble, like I said, have him win the Rumble, and he'll win a title shot. Why not? Building new stars. This would be a great opportunity for him. Somebody else, you know, that's a bigger guy that I'm very impressed with what they're doing, and he's actually on the Raw brand. The Braun Strowman. Another guy who I feel like can have a very big year in 2017. Very dominant big man that's extremely intimidating, even more intimidating than what Corbin is. And you wouldn't want to mess around and make this guy mad. He has a strongman competition background, And, based off of what I've heard from a few podcasts that he's been on, the guy can freaking talk and he exudes charisma. If you listen to, he did the Stone Cold podcast, and then he was on, Chris Jericho's podcast, Talking Shop was one of the off-brand things they do on Talk is Jericho, and it was just incredible. It was him, Jericho, Gallows, and Anderson, and they were just having a good old time, just telling a bunch of stories. And once he got settled in and got comfortable with them, he was just the star of the damn show, the star of the damn podcast. It's a great listen if you guys haven't listened to it already. But, after all the enhancement matches that he had after the brand split and getting away from the Wyatt family, he wanted real competition, and currently is in a pretty good rivalry with Sami Zayn. And the thing I like about him is not only does he look good during his matches, but his opponents look good as well. Even though he's, for the most part, destroying people, somebody like Sami Zayn, did everything he could in, like, that last man standing match they had on Raw. Sami Zayn did everything he could to weaken Braun Strowman, and he still winded up getting destroyed. But it didn't make Sami look bad, because at least Sami tried. It wasn't just like Braun was out there destroying him and Sami didn't even get not one, lick of offense in. That man went and grabbed kendo sticks and steel chairs, and they went through tables. They fought backstage on the entrance ramp. Sami did all that he could with a guy the size of Braun Strowman, and still winded up getting destroyed at the end. And he does a good job of, like I said, if his opponents are going to lose to him, they tell a good story at the same time. And when he gets angry or like gets screwed out of something, watch out. He will literally kill you and eat you for breakfast. And he's just one of the most intimidating dudes I've seen in a long time. I don't want to compare him to Big Show, but do you remember the dominance Big Show had in early WCW and when he transitioned over to WWF, WWE? I feel like Braun Strowman is on a whole different level from where Big Show was. And it's like, they kind of killed him at the end of Raw for me, and I talked about that in my Raw review. If you guys haven't listened to that, go check that out. But I feel like he could have a good 2017 and, become, like I said, maybe the same way Corbin could become a contender for the WWE Championship. Maybe at the end of the year, Braun Strowman could continue to carve a path of destruction to the point where there's nothing left for him to do. He wants the title now. I don't know. It's something they could do. It's something that'd be interesting to watch. And I hope they actually, make him look important as well. As well as those other three guys, Rusev, Corbin, and Strowman. Those are just a few guys. There's a lot more that I feel like they could do a lot with, like, Sami Zayn. Continue to do stuff with him, but for the time being, I'm just giving you guys a few examples. WWE has a vast talent roster. Like their talent roster is great, and if they actually utilize them, they could do big things. Even the cruiserweights as well. I don't want to forget about the cruiserweights, but, just a guy like Neville, who just turned heel and just reinvented himself, looks more dominant than when he was NXT champion and was a heel down at NXT. So, yeah, like I said, they could build a few more people, and those are guys that stick out to me as, guys that could have a good 2017. The next thing I want to talk about is the women's division. I don't want to harp on it for too long because I feel like the women's division has already elevated itself from where it used to be. It's no longer the Divas division, but the women's division from when Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky came up to the main roster from NXT has gotten a whole lot better. Nikki Bella was stepping her game up. Naomi as well. Even Emma, who had reinvented herself down at NXT until she got hurt, was doing well as well. She had Dana Brooke by her side. Dana Brooke actually looked better when she was with Emma than when she's with Charlotte. Just want to put that out there. But of course, Emma got hurt, so they just kind of threw Dana with Charlotte, and that's just what they came up with. Summer Rae is somebody I feel like who's very underrated and hasn't been taken serious. They haven't really gave her a chance. And if they just would not make her eye candy, she could be someone who can actually contend with the other women. If Emma, coming off of her first gimmick, can do it, I'm sure Summer Rae can do it. And I've heard her drop a promo a few years ago, or like right when the women got called up from NXT, she dropped a promo on Sasha Banks when SmackDown wasn't really something everybody watched, and it was a hell of a promo. I'm like, okay, she can actually talk. They're just not giving her a chance. But, like I said, yes, Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, they came up, had great matches, had an excellent WrestleMania match, and then for the rest of the year, it was pretty much, on Raw, Charlotte and Sasha. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed every single one of their matches and love how they told the story of, in the ring and whatever, about how they absolutely despised each other and thought that they were better than the other person. I love the story that they told, but at the same time, even though they were main eventing Raws and main eventing pay-per-views, I need them to continue to build them, but not only that, make the other women feel more important. Somebody like Naomi, like I said, Summer Rae, Nia Jax, Alexa Bliss is the SmackDown Women's Champion. She's doing great. Becky Lynch is tied into a rivalry with her right now. Carmella is somebody who came up from NXT and I thought was just, not particularly ready for the main roster jump, but once she turned heel and went through her thing with Nikki Bella, completely changed my whole aspect on her. She's great. She's incredible. She's gotten a hell of a lot better in the ring. You got Bayley, who's starting to get her chances as well. But, I just want them to continue to make the women feel important. Don't stop making Charlotte and Sasha feel important. Continue to do that. Continue to build them up. Continue to make them look good. That's great. I'm happy. I'm happy that the women are getting a chance. I'm not saying, just stop their push and then just push other women. Push them all. Why not? If SmackDown in 2 hours can have three separate women's rivalries that they can, address during the show, Raw can do the exact same thing. They all don't have to be going after Charlotte, but they can all, tie in together, have their own feuds together, and then eventually, after they're done and feel like they've earned the right opportunity, then they can go after the champion. But, they all don't have to be going after the championship right now. They can have their own separate feuds and it would be great. Make the story make sense. Don't have Bayley and Alicia Fox fighting because Alicia Fox thinks Bayley wants Cedric Alexander. Don't do nothing like that. That's stupid. You had Carmella on SmackDown who went after Nikki Bella because, she felt like what Natalya has been talking about, the past few weeks as well, that Nikki Bella is just there because of her looks, and Carmella tried to elevate herself off of Nikki Bella, and that's exactly what she wound up doing. But it wasn't like, oh, you're dating John Cena, I want John Cena, or something like that. It wasn't something stupid like that. It was a storyline that made sense, and Carmella got eyes on her and made herself feel more important. So I feel like they could do that on Raw. They're doing a good job of it on SmackDown, though. So something else I want to talk about, not exactly the main event people, but the mid-card. I want to talk about this for a little bit. Not everybody can be a main event superstar or, compete in the complete and total spotlight, but just something like going for the IC Championship or the US Championship could elevate somebody. Because like I said, everybody can't be going for the world title. It just wouldn't make sense. But that doesn't mean they can't be important. Look at The Miz and, the rivalry and feud he had with Dolph Ziggler for the better part of the year last year. And once The Miz regained the IC title and went after Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack, elevated that championship to heights it hadn't seen in years. The Miz's character, being the Hollywood A-lister, and, he got Maurice back by, he got Maurice by his side, he married her, she came back to the WWE and is just rolling with him now. It's just, everything he's done in 2016 was just great. It was incredible. He's done a very, very good job of making himself feel important, look important, and actually be important. His moveset has gotten a whole lot better. He's teasing Daniel Bryan in his moveset as well, saying that, since you can't do it anymore, I can do it and do it 10 times better than you ever did it. His charisma is just off the damn charts, and I'm proud because The Miz is from Cleveland and I'm from Cleveland. So not only did I like The Miz from a character standpoint, but just the fact that he's from Cleveland as well, representing the city him and Dolph Ziggler are doing, it just makes me that much more proud of him and that much more happy to say that he's from here. And then, them fighting for the title, making it feel more important. Their storyline was interesting. They told a very, very, very good story, and it was just the mid-card title. They were competing, with the world title in terms of matches and storylines, and that's fine. Not saying it completely overshadowed the world title, because I don't think it did that, but you have talents on the roster in NXT who can become, if not main eventers, very good mid-card talents like The Miz and like a Dolph Ziggler. Somebody like Ty Dillinger, who has been around the company for years, got released and actually came back, reinvented his character, was on the verge of getting released again, came back, became the perfect 10, and just got himself over with the NXT crowd, and now with the WWE crowd. Now it's to the point where sometimes, depending on what city that the WWE is in, and the ref is doing his 10 count for whatever, the crowd is chanting 10 every count. And that got over, at the last TakeOver special, NXT TakeOver Toronto. The crowd had already been, loving him, but just his match with Bobby Roode, even though he lost the match, it elevated him even more, got the crowd on his side, and he's just somebody that was a heel at first with the Perfect 10 gimmick, but the crowd recognized his talent, recognized his charisma, and just started to love him. They turned that man face. He didn't turn face. They turned him face. It was just to the point where they couldn't boo the guy. He was putting on great matches. Even though he was losing, it was like they were just building sympathy for him, and then the crowd just loved the gimmick that he was going with. They loved to chant the 10. His entrance music gets you hyped for him coming out. And, if he's going to be in the Royal Rumble this year and, hopefully be on SmackDown Live, that'll be great for him. And he could be somebody who can go against the Miz, against the Dolph Ziggler, against the Baron Corbin or something like that, and put on, great feuds, great rivalries, even if they're not going to elevate him to, world championship status. But even, somebody like Apollo Crews could use a revamp. Like I talked about him earlier, Rusev could be more dominant as he's going into the main event scene. But, for the time being in the mid-card, make him feel way more important. Some of these guys could be elevated to main event status by just being dominant and, having their characters feel more important during the mid-card stages. Because everybody doesn't just come into the WWE and is automatically a main eventer. You got to work your way up to it. So if you work these guys up to it, then maybe somebody like a Rusev, like a Corbin, could eventually become a world champion. But you got to start off at the bottom of the barrel, per se, first. And then you could actually do it. But, giving more guys a chance and even important storylines can make for good shows. Because, like I said, everybody isn't going to be a main event guy. So the final thing I want to talk about is differentiating heels and faces. Now, the point of a heel in wrestling is to get the crowd against them. Make them hate what they're doing. And get the crowd on the side of the face. If they're trying to build that sympathy for them. If they're trying to get the crowd to pump them up. So that they can, at least make an attempt to come back and win or lose the match. Depending on who it is. Win or lose. That's what we call heat. The problem is nowadays we have certain people who get cheered, because of their ability and their charisma, but are heels. And that's probably not exactly a problem, but in the exact terms of wrestling, you're not supposed to cheer for the heels. But it kind of gets, it's kind of difficult to do that when you got somebody, who was like Seth Rollins when he was heel, or, Kevin Owens. People love these guys. It's going to be hard for them, who've watched their careers over the years, actually boo them, even though they're supposed to be booing them. But, prime example of where WWE messes up is that the heels who aren't supposed to look weak. Think about Seth Rollins' run, his first run as WWE champion. He beat Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 31, got the title, cashed in Money in the Bank, and became the world champion. After that, started the whole authority thing. They were, pretty much just like babysitting him for the most part. He was a chicken shit heel. It didn't look like he could legitimately win matches or, do things on his own. And they would always have to bail him out. He had J&J Security. At one point, he had Big Show. He had Kane, Triple H, and Stephanie on his side. And it wasn't a good run for him as champion. But like I said, he looked weak during that time. Now, prime example of how it's happening now, Kevin Owens, who had previously been built up as a guy who destroys most, if not all, of his opponents in the ring and on the mic. Think about him being down in NXT. When he was in NXT, he didn't give not one fuck. He would pop up powerbomb your ass into the apron on the outside and just wouldn't care. If you're hurt, hey, you're just hurt. That's just too bad for you. But now, to his disadvantage, not only have they made him look weak in his promos and segments, but he's looking bad in the ring. Not saying he's a bad wrestler, and don't get me wrong, he'll work over a guy to the moon and back, but it's to the point where he loses most of his matches by disqualification, or he's losing clean, and he doesn't really get a legit win over anybody. And since pairing him with Jericho, as much as I love Chris Jericho, and as much as I love what he's done, if he doesn't have him, he can't win. Even when the odds are stacked against him and Jericho can't be ringside with him, or at least in the vicinity to where he can interfere in the matches, he's taking the cheap way out. You can't... Somebody like Owens, he should be able to win matches clean. He should be able to go out there, out-wrestle somebody, and kill them. Even with Jericho being by his side, Jericho shouldn't always have to interfere in his matches for him to get a win. Same thing with the Miz. Maurice interferes in some of his matches and stuff, and that's kind of Miz's gimmick. But the Miz will win a match, a good amount of his matches, without having to have Maurice there to have him win. Like, most of the time, she is there. But for somebody like Owens, who has been built up to be a guy who doesn't need anybody, he's regressed in his character to the point that he's the Universal Champion and supposed to be on top of his game, but he looks weaker than ever. He wasn't like this down in NXT. Look how quickly he captured the NXT title. Look how quickly he came up to the main roster and made his debut and took Impact against a John Cena. Feuding with John Cena, having awesome matches with him, he's not the same guy anymore. He's not Fight Owens Fight. He's just best friends with Chris Jericho. And, eventually Jericho's going to leave the company. They're eventually going to get away from that. But at that point, is Owens still going to be Universal Champion? At that point, will it even matter anymore? Because at this point, it's looking like Roman Reigns is just about to take the title off of him at the Rumble. And I'll get into my Rumble predictions in the next few weeks. I don't want to get into it too much, but just the way they've been booking Owens, why not take the title off of him? He hasn't done anything to elevate the title. He's been the first one to have a title reign because Finn Balor got hurt. And maybe they just went with Owens because he was the one that was there or whatever. And, they were supposed to go with Finn. But if, like I said, once again, I'll go back to it again. If you build somebody up the way they were building up Kevin Owens in NXT and even on the main roster with what he was doing to John Cena and what he did to Sami Zayn, then you get him and pair him with Chris Jericho, and he just looks like Seth Rollins 2.0. And it doesn't get him over. It doesn't get anybody else over. What is there to gain by beating the Universal Champion who doesn't feel like the Universal Champion? What is there to gain out of that, other than the title? Yeah, you become champion, but how does that look? He needed Jericho anyway. So if Jericho's out of the equation and he's not being the dominant force that he was built up to be, it doesn't make the person who takes the title from him look well either. So that's what I'm saying. They need to make at least their dominant heels feel more dominant. Even though they're supposed to get heat, even though they're supposed to, tell that story, I get it. But like I said, the way they built up Owens, he's supposed to be like that. And then they just tried to backtrack a little bit, and now he doesn't look legit, he doesn't look believable, and he doesn't feel like a champion. So those are just a few things I had to nitpick about. I do have high hopes for WWE this year, especially since we have the Royal Rumble coming up and it's about to be WrestleMania season, and hopefully they can step their game up, book good matches and feuds, and get better as a company, reeling back in those diehard fans who have decided to stop watching because they don't have a legit reason to watch anymore, because WWE has gotten too lazy with their product. And hopefully we can have a big year and look back on it at the end of 2017 as happy wrestling fans. Thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you guys later on. Peace.